Hi guys. Yeah, so there I am again. Well, I'm back, she said. That's a quote right there. Um, Today's Wednesday, 22nd of July. I actually have several little, creative little projects that I am working on at the moment that I will be, sharing with you a little bit just now. I don't know whether how well this is going to work because it turns out that I'm still very pooped. And on the other hand, I certainly want to come back out and talk to you guys. There have been a couple of interesting things, developments going on. What with, my cat passing away. I suppose I really have to talk about that first. I have got a nice cup of green tea here in front of me, Chinese tea, that I can have. So I'm not completely sure how long I will last for, but and it's also, slightly earlier in the day than I would normally, it's before noon, than I would normally be ready to, have the brain completely available. There's been a couple of things that I still am processing very much. So I haven't really got a clue as to how far along I am in whichever part of the process. First of all, today it is actually a week ago that we had our dear, sweet, white tomcat brought to the doctors for his last and final visit. Making the decision was, funnily enough, not as hard as I was expecting. I'd been putting it off. Turns out that husband also had been putting it off, pushing it into the future a bit. But we both knew that it was just a matter of time, really. The cat was completely spent. Have I still got that photo of here? Yes, I've got several of these kinds of photos around the house. And yeah, so because what happens, or what did happen, certainly for me, and I think also for husband, is that it's very emotional. I was not prepared for the level of grief that this was doing to me. I was not prepared. I knew it was coming, and I didn't know it was going to be this bad. However, I can, to a certain extent, at this point anyway, speak in the past tense. Because it turns out that there's some level of attachment. There's a vibrational attachment thing going on here that I actually yesterday evening managed to, I suppose, resolve. And at least for me personally, at the moment, it feels a lot more peaceful. And it is like he's in a different world now, this guy. So I did a bit of writing at some point last week. I suppose I wrote a nice poem about my cat and the life we shared, or, the way poetry has to be really condensed. At least that's how it works for me. I can express myself in poetry, but it's a very disciplined state of mind because I can only use so many words, and I have to have the right words exactly at that point. And so that's like it's like a kind of magic in a way. That did me good. After that, I went ahead and did a piece in my long, big memoir, chunk of life that is growing fatter every week that I've shown you already a couple of times. There's a couple of pictures in that piece about the cat and the life we had as well. So I suppose I've been working with, the grief, what it was like for in a couple of days, and it was fairly intense, to especially really intense at the end of the day when I was tired, and which is something that happens to me, I don't know about you guys, but I get When I'm really tired, I get like tunnel vision, always. It's a sign of, I suppose, really vibrational exhaustion or overexposure or overwhelm of some type. And I cannot sort of beforehand restrict myself to, that would be a plan, right? To restrict myself to a certain level of activity or engagement and put boundaries around that, and then continue on in a framework that feels safe and controlled and, you know, okay to me. And then I would be able to last longer. It never happens like that. It's always at one point it just flames out and I'm I'm gone. I have no mental activity left to speak of, and I start to feel like a helpless, vulnerable child again, and that kind of thing happens. Not very often, but in this case, it was since the past Wednesday when we had to put him down. It was every evening. I was in throes. It was like I was not seeing a life for myself and or for my husband or for us together without this cat. I was not seeing the life. I wasn't feeling the future without this cat. Huh? Then you're really in a bad way. Actually, I think then at that point there's something going on. There's a problem. You have a problem then. Because normally I have a future in the normal everyday pattern of things. For me, it may be difficult, but there's always a future. There's always a next step that you can take. And there was a next step. It has green leaves in the tea. There's a couple still floating at the top that I can just nibble on. So, because I know that a lot of you people are here both for the wisdom and for the emotional travail, because it relates, or it's relatable in some way. I wanted also for my own psychological health to pay attention to the pain. I wanted to feel what it's supposed to feel like, also because this is really the first time in my life ever that it is my own choice to feel this way. It was my own choice to have the cat put out of his misery because his health was declining, and I could do this either now or in 6 months' time, where it would have been kidney failure and whatever else, and those would not have been 6 nice months for either of us. So there's all that. It was my own choice to it was not my own choice to have this intense relationship with a pet. And I didn't know beforehand. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't know why this was going to be bad and how exactly. And I know now. I've learned many things in the meantime. And I've thought about those things because of how it felt. And I never before in the past had this level of intensity or level of caring with anybody, or not even my husband, not my parents, certainly, ever. And so that's one of the things I figured out in the fact how I felt. I felt this way because I got connected to this cat in 2006. It was when we found him in Austria on the mountain, half frozen and half sick and dead, half dead and all that. And we rescued him. I connected so strongly because he was so grateful for being rescued and being given food and being helped and being protected. He gave back all the love in his little body that he had every day of his life. And that was a very unusual influence for me to be around. I had never had the opportunity, not even with my husband, whom I've known way longer. I met my husband in 1986, so that's way before. That's actually 20 or whatever years before. I can't do math right now. I'm talking, okay? Trying to think the talk and the math, never mind. You can see where this is going, right? We'd been together 20 years before meeting this cat, right? And we'd always, just like humans do, we had armor around us and that we weren't aware of, both of us. And we had self-protecting measures, and we had a lot of baggage, and most of it we had no clue about, and we had no ways of feeling it, no ways of engaging with the past or the present or anything. So I suppose you could say I compensated, or I reached out to this source of compassion and love and tenderness that this cat has been for us, for both of us, because I needed to experience those things. I needed desperately to become the kind of human being that is capable of experiencing this level of cute, inside, in here, all the way in. Look how cute that is. So last time I'm showing him to you, because at some point you're done, okay? The level of affection, of commitment to each other, of what's the word? Unconditional, like a contract that you had with another living creature, was something I'd never experienced before. And because I needed it, I encountered it, and I have put it to real good use in many ways, some of which I have already explained on my channel. In several ways, I will maybe try to, now that once I've got the show going here, try to find another couple of videos to stick in the description to this link, to this video here, so that if you're really interested, you can go and have a look at those. If you're new here, certainly. I figured that out. I figured out that from the intensity of my emotion, I felt like, okay, so this is something I've never had anywhere else. Between my husband and I, the level of contact, the level of exchange between us, the level of commitment certainly has grown significantly over the past number of years, the past 5 years certainly. That's a fairly recent development. And I compared, yesterday we were talking about this, and I compared our old lives to an icebreaker. You always were surrounded by pack ice, and all you could do was forge away in a straight line, more or less, ahead through the ice that surrounded you. That's what my life was like. Regardless of how people intended things to be and whether they were good people, my parents, my grandparents, and all the rest of them, they did what they could. But this, what it was what it was like for me. Perspectives, right? Different sets of perspectives. So I realized all those things. I realized, and still yesterday evening, so fast forward a bit to yesterday evening, I've done quite a bit of cleaning in the house, which was quite necessary, I don't kid you, because of the level of cat hair and fluff all over my house. It was just incredible. I do hoover, I vacuum, I suppose. The whole house gets, not the whole house, the 2/3, the important parts of the house that we are in often get vacuumed at least once a month. And downstairs here, I do it hopefully every week, at least, once a week. And I may occasionally skip a week, and then it's next Monday, it's the first job of business, instantly. That's what I have to do, because cat hair, cat fluff everywhere. So I have a wooden floor here, which tends to be easy to clean and things like that. So it's not a problem. But at this point, it was really necessary for me to also, what with going on holiday at a point fairly soon, I wanted the place to really be, straightened out. So that happened. I have done a couple of other things. I've been drawing in the weeks before. Also, I'm working on this thing here, which I may as well show you. This is actually a diagram of a uterus. Yes, well spotted. It is also a little plan of what might be a garden with little fences going around like so. And the garden has all these little red blobs here, and the red blobs are actually shrines, different shrines. So down here at the exit, I hope you can see that, it says Magdalene, okay? And over here it says Lourdes, and at the back, if I go like this, you can read, it says Kali. This isn't finished. I prepped some of this, and I'm going to probably continue work on this tomorrow because during the afternoon I won't be here. The idea for this is that each shrine represents a part of your female. This is for females, I think, most of the time. Of your female personality, your physical female nature. Each shrine represents an aspect of that. And they are also spread positions. So I love this idea. I've been working on this on and off for, I think the original idea came to me actually last year in July, so that's a long while ago. Actually wrote it down, specified it a bit, and about a month ago or so, it came back to me. I just thought of it all of a sudden again, and I decided to work out on this in the context also of the, dark connection spreads and all that type of stuff. I thought this would be a cool way to proceed. And it turns out that what with all these different goddess shrines and or Mary shrines, it's all in there because it's all in us, all that stuff is in us. There's going to be a lot more. There's one side, so one ovary that has to really do with female ancestry, basically female ancestry, but depends on what kind of cards you get. And of course, all those women were a part of a society where men had a place just as much. So, but it is about the perspective. What is my grandmother's perspective? So you could also select an area of this whole spread because there's quite a number of shrines here. There's also shrines for friends and relationships to the outside. There is an inner child area. There's all sorts of stuff going on here. You could select an area and focus on that and pull cards for that area alone. So I am really nuts about this idea of having like a mega spread in this shape where you could use bits as you go or as you think you need it at that time, or you could choose to go the whole hog and do polyjuice potion. That was another quote accidentally right there. Let's is that, I think that is unless you think it would blah 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 and go the whole hog and use polyjuice potion. It's in Harry Potter somewhere. Some of you will go, yes, aha, I know where this is. Okay, thank you. Please put it in the comments, okay? Because that's fun. Go the whole hog for the spread in case you want to. There is sexuality positions, there is motherhood positions, there's your own mother, there's your hormonal makeup and things, there's things to do with physical vitality and stuff like that. And also it's all open to interpretation as always. You can always say, okay, I want this angle of the spread, but I need this, that and the other thing to be added onto it. It's not like it's a very flexible kind of just like a real uterus, it's very flexible. I think that's a nice idea. I want everything to be flexible because I need it. So that's one angle of work at the moment. I have actually gotten back to this, doing a teeny tiny bit of calligraphy just now. I have talked about moonstones a while ago. I have them actually still here on the table, or a few of them anyway. A little white moonstone, like like so. You won't be able to make it out. It's just a white moonstone. You know what they look like. I have a grey brown coffee cappuccino type color hazelnut moonstone, which I use post ovulation. And then I was going on about there's a black moonstone that I've got, which is got a little brown moon on the side, which I think is really neat. This is what the moonstone looks like by itself. Real, you know, it does have the moonstone sheen in it. Hope you can make that out if I just turn it like this. This is a very philosophical stone. It does actually contribute, I think, to the menstruation phase of things. So on the uterus theme, that's why I thought of this. These three actually keep me company. At the moment, it is more like I'm in tune with all three of them. I am past menstruation in my own cycle at the moment. And I would think I have got a rose quartz in here now instead of the moonstones. I'm okay for now. I don't want too much estrogen because I would normally go for the white again, except a larger one than this. I'm still too tired to really go for the yay estrogen kind of a vibe. You know what I mean? Okay, so that was that. The other thing, other than heaps of books and reading and prepping for holidays and cleaning the house and vacuuming and laundries and stuff like that, the other thing that I'm working on is, let me pick out a card that everybody will recognize, maybe not. I am working on a small version of the Marielle, like this. This is what they look like. I actually decided finally to trim 3 of the 4 sides and leave the caption on. This is the page of discs. Let me pull out the Queen of Swords. That everybody knows, everybody who loves the Marielle loves this card, right? They're really small. They're like, what is this? 1/6, I think, of the normal card size. They will go in with my Ghost Tarot. They will contribute in the alchemical process and magical approach on that side, added in with the Ghost Tarot, my Marseille that I use basically for spreads. Funnily enough, I have used the Lord of the Rings Tarot over the past week, what with my misery with my pet, most of all. Somehow there's goodness wherever you want to find it, okay? I just got a hold of the Lord of the Rings Tarot. It was upstairs where I was most of the time, during the night certainly, and I would pull a card or 2 or 3 during the night at some point if I was, had a trouble sleeping or something, and then I would have to open the curtains and have street light shine on my card so I could make out what it said and so on and so forth, and they've actually been quite helpful. Another part of the adventure was that there's been an inheritance story come out in my family at the moment. It turns out I'm not the sole inheritor of this strange person that I'm related to, apparently, on my mother's side. It turns out that also my 2 uncles and one other person, a half-sister, I believe, of hers, inherit from this old lady. She was 91 years old when she passed away in Amsterdam last year. And so we've been trying to find some information. I just got a huge pile of intel in the mail, which in the actual post street mail, where there was just one little document that I had to sign, that I agreed with somebody being assigned to decide, in this inheritance business. And it turns out that my uncles, one of my uncles is actually somebody who's also quite a bit older. He doesn't like this type of mail. He panics, it just, so he's got help sorting this stuff out. But everybody was gone on holiday, and I was actually the first one to get this envelope in the mail and open it and go like, what's going on? Because it said Court of Law, Amsterdam, and I felt like, oh my God, what have I done? I've done something, somebody's given, this is a lawsuit or something. It wasn't. So it's not that at all. And I know that certainly my older uncle will have had exactly the same experience or worse. And I was actually having email contact with my younger uncle before this episode, and I talked to him on this via email about this whole inheritance story on and off in the past 6 months that we've been having this email exchange for the first time in my life, definitely. So that turned out that it was all a good thing, and also quite a bit of my family tree research that I used to do, that I tend to do in the winter time on and off. I think I'm done with that now because I've seen everybody and I know where they are, except this lady that we're inheriting from. Nobody knows really who she is, except probably a half sister of our my great grandfather. So my uncle's grandfather. Okay, so never mind that. It's just that it's been very confusing. Going back on the internet, messages, all weekend long, until I felt like, are we done yet? Because I want to go back to my Marielle. I've got other things on my mind. I still had my cat on my mind. So this is what my life has been like recently. All the time. I don't know what it's like for you, where you are, but it's like this endless load, endless layers upon layers of events and emotional stuff and psychological stuff and drama and developments and work stuff and back and forth and just, piling up on top of each other the whole time. It's like whenever you have a day or an hour or two where you can just sit and not have the noise of constant from this to that to the other. You just have to sit down and let it go and just never mind. Let's just survive here. Let's just have a sip of tea, okay? More like several gloops of tea. So, the development that has affected me today and yesterday evening and during the night, most of all, is definitely a more a spiritual or vibrational development. And that's my last subject for today. I've actually managed to talk for half an hour about all the other things. So hopefully I can make this work in another 15 minutes or so, max. I was worried, I suppose, for both my husband and myself that we had this continuing sense of attachment to the cat, to what he meant to us, to the emotional things going on, for a reason that was actually vibrational. I have had experiences in the past, actually almost always, whether I was emotionally aware and or involved or connected or not, I've had vibrational experiences a lot, where mostly people, I think it was always people, really passed away, and I had a ghost kind of a appearance or experience thing going on. I will try to shift over slightly this way, because that way it doesn't look like I have this thing coming out of my brain like that. It bothers me. Maybe you hadn't even spotted it, but okay. I've always, when I looked for it, I always have to look for it. It is a choice that I make at some point. Because normally, whenever this happens, it is because I'm surrounded by grief from other people, and I try to interfere, I suppose. Yeah, I try to get a different perspective. It's something I need. It's something I've always needed. From the moment my mother passed away in 95 onwards, I've had phases where, okay, so the only thing I can do at this point, I'm so surrounded by grief and I'm so crushed by the level of intensity of the often anger that people express in these situations. Not only me, other people as well, express loss and anger and powerlessness that they had or experienced with this person who passed away during the lifetime, the lack, the deficits, everything absent, the lack of connection, the anger at that, on and on and on. I've always felt like there's other ways to go about this, for me certainly. And I have had, let me describe one example of a situation where this was actually it was all present, all this whole, what I described just now, was present in a fairly mild form, because this was actually an older aunt of my husband's who'd passed away an X number of years ago. I don't know, I suppose 10 years ago, 15, longer than that. I don't know, something like that. I had no emotional connection with her whatsoever. I don't think anybody else had a lot of emotional connection with her. And I remember going outside after the ceremony and walking between the trees and bushes out there. It was a very sunny day. Autumn, I think, or late summer, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know when this was. So it's like ages ago. And I remember seeing like spider web threads between branches, between bushes right in front of me. And the sun was behind me, shining into the spider web. There was no spiders, or not that I could see. It was just this band of light, a little, band of threads of light. And the way that happens is that they have a structure. If you look at them closely, maybe it's my eyes, but I see little teeny tiny fragments of color along a spider web thread like that, always like an iridescence of some sort. It's teeny tiny, minuscule, and I was looking at that, and I was sort of opening in here and letting my mind sink into the colors that I saw and the brightness, looking actually for the spirit of this old lady who'd passed away. Because I didn't know anything about the soul or the spirit, or what you would call it, back in those days, or how that works for me. Anyway, I don't suppose I had any experience with soul, what I tend to call soul dimensions now. I use those words now, but I didn't have any clue. But I did have a little bit of spiritual experience, like an experience that is really outside the physical realm. And the light or the colors in that thread was actually a bridge, a portal to connect to that other dimension. Very clearly, very simply. And I saw what I recognized to be the personality of this old lady, this old aunt of my husband, as a young girl, I don't know. I suppose looking back now, she looked like going into puberty, 12, something like that. And inside her, it was like she was even younger. She had grown to a certain point and not beyond that, which suits also the kind of life that I think she had. She had a very settled, very regular kind of life, and she was never really about, processing experiences and emotions and all that type of stuff. She was a different generation. But I recognized her personality, even though I'd hardly known her. I'd seen her maybe 10 times, and that was it, and always with other people. But you can learn a lot from that. You can just observe, or you perceive in one way or another, whether you're aware of it or not. There's a lot of perception going on, and all that was in there. All that was in. And she didn't look at me. She didn't need me to do anything. She was in a world of peace and light, and I suppose like a bit of I remember vaguely, like there's a Garden of Eden type place that I've seen people pass through often, and on one side it has what looks like a beach, except it's not really nature like we know it down here. And she had sort of come out of that area of the beach and moved slightly forward. I have no idea other than that. That was it. That was what I saw. But the connecting point was basically the light and the colors in the spiderweb thread. So it's that's how this works. That's how I suppose you have to shift focus to, and it's something I can do nowadays. I have done quite a bit of videos already about, soul connections and my own soul connection, what that means to me. I'll try to find something else that I've done and stick it in the description for you too, if you're interested in that. I've used my perception of the soul connection or the soul dimension in intense therapeutic ways for myself, and I absolutely needed that. I couldn't move. There were moments and times where I couldn't move a step if I hadn't chosen this way. This is just my way of going about this. So for me to shift focus to a leave the world behind, this world, and choose to only see the real nature of the person, or in this case the cat, that I am looking for, to see what is happening to them. Okay, ghost whisperer style, except this time I go looking for them. It doesn't appear to me. It's not like they stand in front of me and wait for me to do something about things. I have to go and look. I have to find them. And because I felt that my husband and I were having a really hard time disengaging, I suppose, from the connection to the cat, from the affection that we'd always felt, from almost being addicted to. Whenever there's addiction, there's a soul issue going on. There's a programming going on in there that we are living with the consequences of. And so the best work you can do is find the soul connection and make sure that whatever you need to happen, happens. Okay? And that's actually possible. But it's spiritual work. When I talk about spirit or soul, I think I mean exactly the same thing. I think soul is more personal. And the thing is that you look for a vibration that is pure positive, but it does have identity. So it's personal. So I can distinguish my own soul from my husband's and my cat's, right? They're up there, they're not all that different. I was thinking about this last night. It feels like the soul dimension, if you can call it that, or the soul world, is like a huge mountain range or a similar shape to that in clouds, except they're not as fixed as mountains, they're not as fluffy and variable as clouds are. But there's one area or one vibrational sort of space that is one person, if you like, and they are connected to other, they're much more connected to other expressions, other people, if you like, in the soul world than we are here. Here we are distinct from each other and separate and different, and we only see the difference and we think that the other guy is alien and weird and utterly incomprehensible. In the soul world, there's full comprehension, there's full understanding, and it's a huge relief to go and visit on and off. I can really recommend a visit to the soul world, if you're just gonna reel in some of that. I don't think I'm the only one who does this type of thing ever. I saw my cat. I saw what I what I know to be my cat's personality. And he was lonesome and a bit worried about why we had sent him away, really. And there was this, like an umbilical cord, except made of light, stringing behind him, like a light cord that was connected to us originally during his life. So what I did is I sort of took up this cord and wrapped it around his neck once and stuck it under so that it would stay put with him. And I said to him, there is the light, just like the Ghost Whisperer stories, Please go, leave us now. You can leave us, we're okay. We let you go. I decided for both of us, because husband was asleep, of course. I do this in my bed in the nighttime. Go to the light. And instantly I could feel the light connecting with him and him connecting to it. And he was still in a state of, why do I have to go? I don't understand. All that. But I waited and I sat and I waited for him to go into the light. And this is where it gets really interesting and cool. I was hoping for somebody, some soul dimension, not body, someone, okay? Some soul person to come forward to come and pick him up. Because I believe this cat was in our lives for a reason. Because of all the development and the personal growth and the expansion that we've experienced with this cat, and in part thanks to this cat, I really wanted some organizing, whichever nature, up there to take him on, to, welcome him. That actually happened. He got into the light, and I could still see in the light for a while. And there was some kind of a larger person, I suppose. And the only thing I can say to describe that person is that it had like a blue color. Blue, not a color, the color blue. Like that. This tint, actually. And they welcomed my cat, and the cool thing was that my cat responded with love and with happiness, being back where he belonged with this person, whoever that was. And they sort of melded together and went further on into the light for a little bit. And I felt it. I felt the emotional exchange of love and recognition between the two natures. This is training my perceptive abilities to the max. But I was motivated. And after that, I came back to myself. The world changed. As I sit here, I feel relieved. I feel a lot less burdened. I feel slightly more confident about things going the way they are going. I am fine. Now that this is done, but I had to send him off. Okay? So that's why this is also very pagan and very interesting and very mystical and all that, because nobody talks about this type of experiences on the tube, which I think is kind of a shame, but maybe that will happen more in the future. Maybe they are there. Maybe you're there, you guys, who do this type of stuff, But it's not easy to share. You have to have the experiences and the words, which I have both, which I think I am really lucky to be able to combine and to give to you like this. So the house is a lot less, the house is mine, the house is ours. And I still see him walking around, because that's in my mind. My memory hasn't faded, not in a week or not in 12 hours time. Somehow there's a difference. There's peace now, because there isn't a straining to go back to a dimension that you can't go back to. Not from his end and not from my end. You have to see the dimensions as different, as separate, because that's the way the world works. It works like this. There's nothing you can do. It's the finite and the infinite. So I think I did that. I think I have said by now everything that I have to say about this. Thank you for watching. And yeah, I suppose next week or so I will be back, or maybe I will think of something else to do. I've shared many things now, and I'm off to, I think, to IKEA this afternoon to go with my friend who needs something from there. So I will be in the crowd. Wish me luck. I wish you all the best. Thank you again for watching and for, traipsing along this very convoluted, very weird tale. If I look at what people call weird, I go like, oh, it's hopeless. Thank you. See you next time. Okay? Bye-bye for now.